book. It came out towards the end of 2005. It's called the Sidonia Codex. It's in the syllabus, which is why a lot of things I'll mention are already listed in the syllabus. If it's not, I'll tell you. It's extremely important that you read a book like that because it deals with the direct connection between what's referred to as the geoglyphs on Mars and the geoglyphs and cultural icons of Mesoamerica, that being South America, Mayan, Incan, and Aztec, and Olmec. The connection being that what he refers to as Olmecs, he identified with me as what I was referring to as the Moorish legacy. Okay? The Sidonia Codex is a big key to understanding the relationship between Mars and Earth. Both he and I had agreed that one of the biggest reasons that NASA keeps burying this stuff, that there's hundreds of geoglyphs out there. I'm sure you've heard of Richard Hoagland, but what he had done would be seen as juvenile compared to what George Haas and William Saunders have done with the Sidonia Codex. It's 10 years worth of research. And it goes far and above or beyond what now would be just juvenile shenanigans with what's referred to as the face on Mars. The stuff they get into relates to the people of color and hue here on Earth, the Mesoamerican cultures of South America, who, of course, came from the Olmecs of Africa. And he and I were talking, and one of those geoglyphs is the image of a primate with Negroid-like features and the headdress of an Egyptian. And there's no way in hell that white NASA gone in a direction that has a much more solid foundation to it. And what I mean by that is that the abduction phenomena by itself, Freemasonry by itself, doesn't work. And this is why you get these asshole white academics who get away with saying, oh, that doesn't exist. Well, that's funny because if I ask members who represent the other 70% of the population, that people of color and hue, also known as the sun-kissed people of Earth, I seem to get a different answer, okay? So you got 70% of the planet, blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Asians, okay? Anyone who's 7 shades darker than me, giving me one answer, and you've got this other elite 30%, Caucasian pale skin, saying something completely different, going against the grain of truth that represents the majority. So I was getting to a certain point where about 2 years ago, Peter Moon and I hooked up again. I'd known Peter Moon since 1994. But around 2004, we had hooked up again, and he knew intuitively where I was going. As a matter of fact, he turns out to be one of my mentors. He ends up walking out to me at one of his meetings, hands me this giant book. It's about yay thick and square like this, okay? It's in the syllabus. I do recommend you take the time to study it. I'm about 1/3 of the way through it, and I'm still reading it because it's got little tiny type like this going down every page. But he sends it to me, and I look at it, and it says, the biography of Noble Drew Ali. He says, I know about this. He says, I've been involved in getting to know the Moorish legacy. He says, but I have not read this. He says, this is for you. And he just gives it to me. I said, well, what do you want? I have no respect for Christianity to begin with. It's useless. It's a white man's religion. It was never meant for people of color and hue. I feel bad for black Christians because they're in for a sad awakening. All right? In fact, get the hell out now. Because when I'm done decimating Christianity, you're going to be running back to Egypt and Islam for solace, okay? Anyway, Robert Morning Sky Cosmology and the Temple of Solomon History, Noble Drew Ali, all right? The concept to keep in the back of your mind. There are two kinds of people in the world, and you need to decide what side of the playing field you're on. And those two kinds of people are consumer slave or master investor. All right, this relates to the symbolism here. I use the term master investor. It comes straight out of the real estate arena and economics, but it can be used as a metaphor for anything. You could be a master investor at anything. Spirituality, economics, history, religion, ufology, it doesn't matter what you want to relate it to. The point is that the number 666 is man as the beast, the consumer slave. 777 in between represents transcendence, the trials of life, that path that you go on to stop thinking like a consumer slave and move into the mentality of a master investor, which of course leads you to 888, infinity, Godhood. This is what the number 8 represents, infinity in the first place. It is the symbol for infinity. Also known as Jumachu or Jumachi, it is a state of completion, and that's why